I want to thank everybody for coming out, like, to support our rights. You know, like, without all of us here showing support, like, our rights are not going to be heard, and they're just going to be sold out. So, like, I want to thank everybody for coming and showing support today. And I want to introduce everybody to Chief Riley. It's a man that I highly look up to, and he's the author of Section 35 of the Constitutional Act, which affirms and recognizes our inherent and our treaty rights. And Del, he's been a big part of my team, and I want to give an applause for Del. Everybody for coming.
This law of the land, that's the only option we had at the time. So, and that was to get it constitutionalized so that no federal or provincial law can supersede it. Okay, they're kind of ignoring us right now on it, but I think we're going to win because something really big is happening. People are realizing that the Indian Act chiefs and councils are just well, as John A. MacDonald said, they're an experiment. And the real authority is still, when I put it in the Constitution, it stays with the traditional people because they're the only ones that sign treaties, not chief and council. So your authority lies all within the people. But at some point in the future, you got to figure out how to exercise that. You know, by maybe going back to things, by creating things, and you're going to have to bring your chiefs and councils in, teach them the right information. They don't realize that when John A. MacDonald set up the Indian Act, it was a racist document so that they could get at your resources, and that's the only reason it's really there. But he did one other thing as well. He never gave the Indian Act chiefs and councils any authority because he didn't trust them either. So what can they do? They can't do anything. That's why you don't have any economy in your communities. And most communities across Canada are the same thing. And they're really trying to hold on. But like I said, your real authority resides with the people. That's your nationhood. And that's what throws out the province here, is when it comes to rights, province is only an administrative unit of the federal government. They can't deal with your rights. They have to bring in the feds. And then if you use Section 35, that's what's going to happen here, is they got to bring in the feds. The province is kind of out of it because they're, like I said, they're just an administrative body.
Why do we have to start off in provincial court every time we get charged?
Oh yeah. Well, and there's a lot of things we can do. Of course, I've been talking to Mr. Googoo here. There's a lot of things you can do, even with the RCMP. One of the things that people forget is the RCMP also holds a fiduciary responsibility to people. They can't do those things they've been doing. And then, if you have to at some point use, there's 3 sections of the Indian Act you can use to keep them from coming in and seizing any of your properties.
RCMP are here as guests.
Section 88, 89, and Section 87, 88, 89. But read them carefully, because it supersedes any provincial law. And they can't seize any of your property.
We try to get rid of the RCMP in Chubby.
Yeah.
Chief and council just brings them in. I handed RCMP a fiction notice.
Yeah.
Chief and council just overrides it.
Yeah. And they don't have any authority.
They don't?
Really, it's so crazy. They operate on some sort of pseudo authority that they don't know what it is, and they don't realize it doesn't exist. Yeah, your change is coming about, I think, and people are starting to learn. There's a lot of things I'm doing nationally as well. I got invitations right now all over the country. But what I'm doing is I'm teaching people the reality, the truth about this. Actually, the BNA Act is a huge scam for us. They scammed us with it by introducing racist laws. The Indian Act is a piece of racist legislation, and it needs to go. And we need to introduce our own lawmaking. But you've got the authority to do that. It's just that at some point in time, you've got to get that to that point where you can do this. You can exercise this. And the same thing that's happening here is happening actually other parts of the country as well. I know my First Nation got scammed into throwing in a $2 million investment into some cannabis company someplace, and they were supposed to get some back every year. They never got nothing. That's about 6-7 years ago. Got nothing back. And any of the councillors that try to question about it, they usually get pushed aside. So the scam is taking place all over the country, the same kind of thing. The federal government is really trying to keep you under the Indian Act. And if not necessarily this one, they've got another kind of one that they'll give you a little more authority. But the federal government, the Indian Act boss, the minister, he's still a boss of the chief and councils. He can disallow any decision they make. So that's really where we stand. But the important thing though is to learn all the information and read the Indian Act. You'll see how bad it is.
Why do they let RCMP criminalize our folks?
Because they don't. We're finding out they don't know any better either. Most of them haven't learned. They don't know where the law stands on anything. And I think one place we went and did a presentation, they all backed off. As soon as they realized that, hey, Aboriginal treaty rights is up here, federal law is here, province is down here, and the top supersedes all of them. So that's the way it is. But you've got to learn it, and you've got to understand it, and you've got to be able to pass on this information to people.
We're the only ones that can define our own rights. Like colonial bodies of structured government cannot do that.
And here's one more thing that's really important. You people have a wonderful, or say, fantastic opportunity. You own the whole province here. You own it. They've never bought any of this, not even the land here. They haven't bought that off you, have they? Okay, it's yours. All your rights are intact here. Okay, and you got to learn how you can maneuver this. You can use it. I'm doing it in another place, but there's kind of a little twist to it. But you've got to get on to resolving it with that attitude that you still own it, and you still own all those resources they've extracted on you. I also run the Indian Rights think tank. If you really want to know information on this, and it's taking hold all across Canada. We're getting a lot of the good information out so that people can understand what really happened and of why this apartheid law that they have in place is wrong. And once that's in place, I mean, your judges also have the right to do racial judgments against us, and that's what they've been doing. And so the whole criminal justice system, the whole attitude of government is really racist towards us. So, and nothing's going to happen if you don't fight back.
Yeah.
We don't have to take out the arms or anything. And my position now has been, well, the system is terribly broken, and it needs to be fixed. We can't get rid of them; they can't get rid of us. So let's work on something that works for us. we're first.
Anybody got any questions?
I agree with him. I think he's right. Yeah. 100%.
And we also got to remember too, like not all like chief and council. It's not our chief and council's fault totally. It's the Indian Act is totally to blame for this. They're the ones that created Indian Act Chief and Council, and most of our chief and council are uneducated about these issues. And it's up to us to not attack them, but educate them. So we got to be mindful of that. You know, like we can't attack our own people. We have to educate them so they learn. And this is the way that we're gonna move forward as a whole nation together. Page siding with the government, but our election passed. We got like a bunch new council in now. Like I think it's like 4, is it, Lisa? 4? Yeah. 4 new, 5? 5 new councils, and so like we're starting to make change, but that's because we're spreading the word. We're educating our people, our community. We got to put workshops on. We got to put workshops on. We got to promote this, you know, to our people, because if we're not the ones teaching our children ourselves, they're not going to learn this stuff in school. So it's up to us, you know, as Mi'kmaq people to teach and our youth and our adults, our elders. You know, there's a lot of adults and elders, like there's a lot of people that are uninformed of like the real issues here, you know, like, and it's sad to say, but the Indian Act hasn't really done nothing good for our people, but it's basically just is a tool of genocide in my eyes. You know, they take our religion, our education, our culture. Like I don't know how to speak Mi'kmaq fluently, and you know, like, and that's something that I should know, you know, like as a Mi'kmaq person, you know, and like where our culture was stripped from us and this and that, like, and I wasn't able to get those teachings, you know, so like it's up to us to educate our people and make sure that everyone's informed on what's important, you know.
I also spent 5 years in residential school, and so I know the horrors of that. I was lucky to get out alive, and they put me in. Let me tell you this story. This is how they put me in. RCMP came to our house one day with there was a couple of them anyway, and they come in. We had 8 kids, and they just said we're taking all your kids to residential school. And of course my grandpa, who was there at the time, he was trying to fight them off with his cane, because he'd lost 10 kids to residential school. Now he's going to lose his grandkids. And sure enough, they ended up taking 5 of us out of 8. But my dad was able to save the youngest ones from going. But yeah, I that's how they took us. And you know, it's crazy to think that they put me in at the same time I had TB, so they put me in to infect all the other kids, and I just come out of a sanatorium where actually my mother had died in there, so they put me in residential school to infect the other kids. But this is how they worked at that time. So, and they still use those systems. Probably, I think they used them probably up into the 80s. But that was, I guess, biological warfare against us.